You're listening to Live and Local Conversation on Talk Radio 600 WBOB. The lines are open. Dial 854-1320. Now let's return to Cindy Graves, politics, business, and mayhem.
It certainly didn't stop the decline when it came to the debt, as the debt has gone up.
3 years, Obama's tacked more debt than any other president.
There is no break in the steady increase of the national debt, now up to an astounding $13 trillion. The debt just keeps on climbing.
How irresponsible is it that this president has allowed America's national debt to increase by 41% over his term?
It's a new week in the same old news. I'll tell you what, welcome back to Politics, Business, and Mayhem. I'm your host, Cindy Graves. The subject is politics. My guest is Representative Mike Weinstein, here to discuss his hotly contested race for Steve Wise's newly redistricted Senate seat. And no, Mr. Wise has not been thrown out. He actually is retiring because he termed out. Welcome, Representative Mike Weinstein. How are you, sir?
Thank you, Cindy. Glad to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you. Now, tell me, do you think that the level of debt at the federal government is unpatriotic?
Well, the level of debt on the federal government and us, really, we are basically the government, all the people, is not only a financial burden, but it's really a security issue as well. I think it's the most pressing and dangerous part of our vulnerability as a country, and I think that it is very unpatriotic to get us in this particular position.
Well, I imagine you're much more comfortable over in Tallahassee, where you actually have to have a balanced budget, aren't you?
Well, the 4 years that I've been here as a House member, we had deficits, and we dealt with them. We basically balanced the budget as we're responsible to do and under law have to do, and we did it without basically raising fees or taxes. It works out. Basically, government budgeting is prioritization. All it is basically setting up what it is that you're willing to pay for and dropping those things that you're not able to pay for. And if you approach it that way and live within your means, you can get there. What's happening in Washington is basically catastrophic.
It is catastrophic. And you're listening to Mike Weinstein, a candidate for Florida Senate. And we are talking about, tell me, you're a representative now. You had 4 more years left in that spot. You guys didn't get so much business done this last year in Tallahassee because mainly you worked on this little pesky issue called redistricting.
Well, the mappings, they really matter. We spent a lot of time on balancing the budget, and we spent a lot of time on making sure we did the maps in a way that they were constitutional. We had 2 amendments that passed a year ago that really changed the way redistricting happens. And it took a lot more time than it would have in the past if those 2 amendments didn't get through. But the House did a great version. The Senate had problems. The Florida Supreme Court kicked back the Senate's versions of the new maps. So we were in for a lot longer time on the mappings than we had anticipated. But elections matter, and how the maps came out really had an impact throughout the state, and especially on my decision to run for Senate.
Because you're one of several representatives that found yourself running against another sitting representative because both of your seats merged. In this case, you and Charles McBurney.
Yeah, that's correct. The city of Jacksonville, our delegation next year will be 2 House members short and 1 senator short. We will go from 8 House members to 6 and from 3 senators to 2. Because of the way the maps came out. And Charles McBurney and I, we started together in the House 4 years ago. We worked together as in the state attorney's office many years ago. We're longtime friends, and we'd have to run against each other with the new maps the way they came out. And that, coupled with the Senate maps the way they came out, really drove me to decide to run for the Senate.
Well, now tell us, what do you think is going to be the most pressing issue facing the Senate next year?
Well, first and foremost, it's always the budget. We probably will have an even budget for 1 year to the next, or probably a little less. We'll probably have a little deficit again, and we'll have to balance that budget. But basically, the state of Florida, like the rest of the country, we are driven by trying to create an atmosphere to create more jobs. If Florida isn't growing, then we've got a major problem. The way we're structured with no income tax, and we're blessed to not have an income tax.
Praise the Lord.
I don't think we ever will. But because we don't, we are dependent on the things that happen in business and the growth that needs to happen for Florida to stay basically solvent the way the government is structured. So we've got to figure out a way to expand the businesses we already have here and bring in businesses from throughout the country, if not the world, to get Florida back on a growing trend again.
Well, God bless you, and God bless everything. I think this governor is doing a great job, and he and the lieutenant governor certainly seem to be on the phone quite a bit trying to steal the thunder from Texas, where it seems like everybody wants to go. Speaking of voters and the people that are here in our state, when you talk about that we're a no income tax state, no state income tax, it cracks me up the people that are the liberal contingent within America coming here to Florida because they want to take advantage of the fact that we don't have any income taxes for our state level. But boy, then they come down here and throw off our conservative vote with all those pesky Democrats, I think, from the Broward County area. But, the governor is trying to clean up our voter polls. There are, according to him and others, there are people who are voting that are non-citizens, not necessarily illegal aliens, but people that for one reason or another, possibly when they came in with a green card and got their driver's license, they were just asked if they wanted to register to vote, and they innocently said, yes, I probably would have too if someone had asked me and I didn't understand the laws. But do you believe that we should continue with the process of taking non-voters off of our rolls?
Absolutely. We need to make sure that whoever has this luxury of being able to vote, and it's really a right and a privilege, are legitimate to be able to vote. It's very, very important. That it's a shame that we don't have everyone voting that legitimately could be voting. And it's almost embarrassing the percentage of people that don't vote that could be. But we definitely have to make sure that those that are not meeting the requirements of being an eligible voter are taken off the rolls. We are a country of laws, and it's not right for us to pick some laws and not others to obey and to enforce. You see it with immigration. You see it in so many ways, especially nowadays coming out of Washington, where the administration is picking and choosing which laws they want to enforce or not, and that begins to break down the whole system that this country was developed under. We are a country of laws. If the laws aren't correct, then get them off the books, but don't pick and choose which laws you want to enforce.
Well, I find it ludicrous that the Department of Justice thinks that we should obey the law that says that we shouldn't do anything new to the books after they drug their feet for an entire year, putting us within the 90-day zone of an election, in this case the primary. But they think that law should be obeyed, but the very basic law, this very important right of Floridians to vote and only citizens being able to vote, is something that they're willing to forego. I mean, I think it smacks of politics, personally.
Well, it's wrong in so many ways. The political spectrum is one of the many ways that it's wrong. And voting rolls that need to be purged constantly. People are coming and going all the time. People are moving. People are passing away. Not only do you have those that are trying to vote that shouldn't, but you also have names on the rolls that have no business being there. The individual has moved out of the state, or the individuals have passed away, and that makes it vulnerable for others to vote in names of people that aren't supposed to be on the list.
Well, I think that's one of the interesting things about this governor, since he's not political and he didn't really know what the ropes were all the way. Sometimes he just asks the question like a regular person would. What do you mean we have non-citizens voting? And there you go. And up kicks this dust storm. Now, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you and I were talking about before we came on, it wasn't your real job, but you used to be a radio host too. I used to listen to you.
Yeah, as a volunteer many years ago, I was basically a radio show host for the Justice Coalition. We had an on-live call-in show during the week years ago, and I volunteered to do that. Well, my whole career basically started in public safety, so I'm very big on public safety issues, Justice Coalition issues, taking care of victims and what have you. But I've been very blessed. I've been here for 35 years in Jacksonville, and I've had a great career, highlighted by the negotiations of the Jaguars and bringing them here, and then highlighted by being president of the Super Bowl for Jacksonville. I really am fortunate. My wife and I have lived in Mandarin for 35 years. My 3 grandchildren live in Mandarin. And getting back to the maps for a second, the way the Senate map came out, the Senate seat that I'm running for is 85% Duval. 400,000 people in my district live in Duval County. 75,000 live in Nassau County. And when I saw that, I figured that this is a Jacksonville seat. We already lost a senator in the numbers, going from 3 to 2, and I felt that the city of Jacksonville really should have a Republican on the Senate side, and I put up my name, and I'm running for that particular seat.
Well, now tell us, you also work for the state attorney's office currently. Is that correct?
That's correct. I came here in 1977 to work for Ed Austin in the state attorney's office when he was
Ed Austin had a heck of a little group. Or is everybody that y'all work with back then, from Angela Corey to Well, Suzanne Bass just left. It seems like everyone worked for Ed Austin that's in government today.
There's no better mentor than Ed Austin. There's so many of us through the judiciary and leadership throughout the community and the state that basically learned from Ed Austin. But I've been in the state attorney's office almost 20 years. I've been with Angela now 4 years. So when I'm not in the House, it's a part-time job being a House member. 60 days is the only length of time the Florida Constitution allows us to be in session. So when I'm not in Tallahassee, I am in the state attorney's office as a prosecutor.
Well, I am so glad to have you. I hope you'll come back and give us an update on your race. It's very exciting. It's getting a lot of attention all over the state. And we've been listening to Mike Weinstein, a candidate for Florida Senate. When we come back, we've got kind of a double bump because we are going to listen. We're going to be able to visit with Representative Doc Renuart from the Ponte Vedra area. He's also running for re-election, and he is going to talk to us about the issues that are facing St. Johns County, and we are so happy to have him here. Right after this on Politics, Business, and Mayhem, Talk Radio 600 WBOB.